Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to join us tonight. I am so happy that you are here with us. And I'm even happier that I have Debbie with me to do this session on observation. Yeah, so Debbie, well, to many of you, she doesn't need any introduction. She is a wonderful colleague of mine, and she is residing in North America. Okay. When I first connected with her, I was wondering what mountain time means. Living in Asia, there's no mountain time. Yeah. Yeah. So she's making a very special time to be with us. There is 15 hours of time, 15 to 16 hours of time difference between us. Yeah, she has brought her coffee, right? So without much ado, I'm going to pass the time to Debbie. Okay, and I've just stopped share.
Okay, let me share my screen as well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. Before we start off, I'd like to really thank Catherine for the invite here today. It's an absolute honor to be with you and to be here. I'd also like to thank CGMS for the opportunity to spend time with you today too. As some of you know, I am not exactly a tech whiz. There is a resource in the presentation that I have had some trouble with over the last couple of days. If it doesn't work properly today, we'll just move on to the next one. Okay. Also, I'm more of a thinker than a speaker. And I have so much to share that sometimes my brain goes faster than my mouth. So if an odd word pops out or I say something and you think to yourself, that doesn't make any sense, please forgive me. Okay. As Catherine and I spoke about earlier, I have built in some time for questions at the end of the presentation. But if you have a question that you want to ask during the presentation, please pop it in the chat. And Catherine has kindly said that she would monitor the chat for us. Okay. Catherine told me that I should approach this like I would one of my live classes. So it might not be a traditionally formal webinar presentation like you've been used to. But the whole point is to have fun, to learn something, and to interact with each other in a way that you'll remember and that what we do will stick in your mind. Not just because you've written it down in your notepad, but because it actually has some meaning for you beyond that. Okay. So let me share my screen. Right, this is where the technical stuff starts. So please keep your fingers crossed for me. Here we go. Please, Catherine, tell me you can see that.
Yes.
Yes, so far so good. All righty. Now I'm just going to wait a few minutes and then I'm going to move you all down to the bottom of my screen, hopefully. No, okay. All right. So welcome to Observation with Intention, Nurturing Reflective Practice in Early Childhood Education. First, I would like to share a little bit about me. My name is Debbie Couldrey, as some of you know. I'm a Montessori guide and mentor and coach. I'm an instructional guide for the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, a practicum advisor and field consultant, and an adjunct professor of Montessori Studies at Sarasota University. But over and above all of those things, I absolutely love Montessori. And I love working with children and I love working with adults and sharing the Montessori philosophy. What I thought I would do today to get us in the mood for our presentation is to do um, a little reading, a very short reading, just a minute, if that. So take a breath, breathe out, drop your shoulders. Here we go. In observing children, we are not collecting facts about them as much as we are learning the limits of our own seeing. What we call attention is often interpretation. We arrive with ideas already formed about what should be happening, about what matters, about what counts as progress. But the child is not asking to be measured against our expectations. The child is simply living. And so observation becomes less an act of gathering information and more an act of restraint, holding back our conclusions long enough for something real to appear. In that pause, something shifts. We begin to notice not only the child, but ourselves. How quickly we decide, how easily we name, how rarely we simply witness. This is where understanding begins, not in certainty, but in the willingness to look again. So just take a moment there to think about that. Okay. So I wasn't sure who would be coming to the webinar today. So um, I thought I would start off very quickly with a 1, 2, 3, what is Montessori? It's a method of teaching developed by Dr. Maria Montessori about 120, 150 years ago. The philosophy is built on respect for each child as being a capable and curious individual, and it prioritizes learning through independence, exploration, and importantly, hands-on learning. So the thing that I find really interesting is that Maria Montessori based her methods on observations of many children over many years in many different countries. She formed her theories to explain her observations of children. She did not create the theories and then fit children to the theories, which is the opposite of what so many educational theorists do. So this is one of the reasons why I think the Montessori philosophy has stood the test of time, because of the number of children that she observed. So observation is a key element of the Montessori method. And as Montessorians, it's central to everything we do. But why is that? Why is something so vague, so central? So we need to think about what our observations can tell us and what we use them for. So our observations can guide precise, individualized instruction for children, not a group of children or a class of children, but for individual children. Observations provide insight into the environment and its effectiveness. It can help us identify challenges a child may be having. So as well as helping us see a positive, oh, that child's fine motor skills are really great, they spend all their time in the practical life area, it also helps us identify the what I like to call the negative space, where we can also identify challenges a child might be having because they don't spend much time in the practical life area. Our observations help us to decide when to act and when to wait. And our observations also help us refine our own practice. So, how do we observe? There are actually several different ways to observe. So, we have our formal observations and informal observations. Um, in the classroom, we decide who, what, when, and where we're going to observe. The one constant in an observation is us. We're the one thing that never changes. And that's an important thought to hold on to as we go through today's presentation. So when we sit down to observe, there is what we see in the room when we watch a child and so on, and there is our interpretation of what we see. So first of all, we're going to have a quick look at what it means to do a formal observation, and then we're going to have a quick look at what it means to do an informal observation. So formal observations are observations you consciously set out to do. They are very intentional. So a formal observation, you'll sit down and you'll have in mind a set time. I'm going to do an observation today from 2 o'clock to 2:30. You'll have a fixed amount of time. I'm going to do an observation today for 15 minutes in the afternoon. You might have a set area. I am going to observe the sensorial area and see which materials are being used the most. You might set out to observe a specific child, or you might sit down with an intention. I am going to observe the whole classroom, all the children, but I specifically have concerns about their fine motor skills, so I'm going to focus in on that. Okay, so formal observations, you sit down with an intention. Informal observations occur anytime you're in the room. They're almost kind of like subconscious observations. Sometimes you might not even be aware that you're observing. But if you're in the classroom, if you're a lunchtime supervisor, if you're at recess, if you're doing helping the children go home, you are doing a formal observation. Anytime your eyes are open in the classroom. They can occur during transitions. They can occur when you're working with a child or presenting a lesson. They can occur at recess, at lunchtime, any time. They are just as important as formal observations, sometimes more so. And that's why it's important to have a small notepad with you at all times. So if you're in the middle of transition and you notice something happening and you think, oh, wow, yes, that's such an aha moment for me about that child. If you jot down very quickly the child's name, the time, the area, you will remember enough at the end of the day to be able to write up your notes about it. If you don't write down anything, you won't remember it because then you have a meeting with parents or a child gets sick in the afternoon, and these things just go out of our minds. Okay, so have a teeny tiny little post-it pad with you at all times and be prepared to jot down some very, very quick notes. Are there any questions anybody has so far? Anything anybody wants to ask? No, we're good.
Yeah, you can either put it on chat or unmute yourself.
Yep. Okay, you
Yes,
can also use
Yes,
Oh,
Dan.
sorry.
Sorry. This is really a little bit off, but you mentioned like anytime your eyes are open. I've actually done observations without my eyes open, intentionally.
Using your
Intentionally,
hearing.
yeah, for like discourse analysis, which is like a linguistic thing, but it's like listening to what teachers and um how children are interacting with language to each other, right? Like
Yeah,
just focus, so you're just focusing on language. So just a side note,
absolutely.
it doesn't have to be action necessarily, right?
Yep. Yep, definitely. Definitely. So this is where now the presentation asks you to be more engaged and interactive. So this is definitely where I would like you to use your reaction emojis. Okay. So ordinarily with my little live class, I would get people to like tell me what they see. But it might be a little bit difficult with a larger group. So a thumbs up or wave or just nod really helps. Okay. So we're going to take a look at some slides and then, oh, excuse me. Coco, shh. I'm going to take a look at some slides and then some videos. And I'd like you to think about what you're seeing. Okay, here we go. So be prepared. Take a look at this slide. I'm sure it's one that many of you seen before. So what do you see? Do you see two faces or do you see a vase? If you see two faces, do a thumbs up emoji or give me a thumbs up. If you see a vase, thumbs up. Two thumbs up. Thank you, Sue. That's really helpful. Okay. Right, we're going to have a look at another one now. Do the same for this one. What do you see? Do you see an old woman? Do you see a young woman? You can do reactions emojis. You can do thumbs up. Can you switch between the two? Can you see the old woman? Then can you switch to see the young woman? Great. Okay. We're going to do another one now. Okay, this is a really famous one. Do you see a duck? Do you see a rabbit? Which one came first? The duck or the rabbit? And again, can you switch? Now, these are very, very common optical puzzles, if you will. And um, they are ones that you've probably seen before and you have some understanding of. And you can switch between seeing the two different images. Okay. And that's a good thing. That's what we want to happen. Your eyes, your mind can see both and switch between the two quite comfortably. The next thing I want you to have a look at is a little video. And this is the resource that I had some trouble with earlier on. So keep your fingers crossed for me now. Okay, here we go.
This is a gradual change test. Watch this short film and try to spot the change. Only one thing will change. Did you see it? Few people notice it, even though it happened in plain sight. Here's what changed. We think changes draw attention, but we don't realize how much we can miss. We're blind to our own change blindness. Now that you know what's changing, you can actually see the change happening. It just doesn't draw your attention automatically. Watch it again. Our overconfidence that we will notice such changes reflects an everyday illusion, the illusion of attention. Check out the book, The Invisible Gorilla, to learn more. www.theinvisiblegorilla.com.
Okay, so far so good. Now, when I was practicing my presentation and I clicked through to the next slide, it repeated this one. So keep your fingers crossed for me, but this slide might repeat again. So let's just...
This is a grad.
It did. All right, just bear with me a moment. Yes. Okay, this second short video is a little bit longer, but now you've got your eye in, really focus on the cups. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Okay. So from looking at those two videos, I think it's fair to say that we all saw the same video, but we noticed different elements. And that last one especially, there's so much going on in there. And that's like what it is when we observe our classrooms. There's so much going on. There's 20 little souls. Some are in practical life, some are in sensorial, some are preparing snacks, some are doing maths, some are crying, some are rolling around on the circle time carpet with their friends. There's a lot going on, and we don't all notice the same things all the time. And this is extremely important when we think about our observations. It has implications for what we see, and it has implications for our interpretations of what we see. And it's absolutely 100% for all the adults in the room to see different aspects of the same situation. Absolutely 100% okay. So your interpretation of an event or incident in your room will be different to your co-teacher's interpretation of that same thing, of that same child at that same time. And this speaks to the fact, really, that our observations aren't necessarily about us. They're about the children. When it comes to observations, there is no right and there is no wrong, because we all interpret the same things in different ways. And this is why we need to share our observations. This is why we need to collaborate with each other as adults in the room. There's no right, there's no wrong. It doesn't matter if you're a lead with many years' experience, a float teacher, a lunchtime supervisor. That doesn't matter. What matters is how we use what we see to nurture the child. Our job is to build up a clear picture of the child. That's our job. And then prepare the environment accordingly. The best way to build up a clear picture of the child is to gather the observations from all of the adults that work with that child. It's not about us being great observers. It's not about our egos as adults. Oh, I've been observing for 25 years. There's not a thing you can tell me about observations. It's about getting a clear picture of the child. So I thought now we'd get down to the nuts and bolts of observation with intention. And when I go and spend time in Montessori classrooms, there are frequently asked questions that come up all the time. And it's worthwhile, I think, really exploring these. So one of the things that I hear people say when I go into a classroom is, I'm so busy. How can I just can't find time to observe. So it's valid. We are busy. We are super busy. And some days our classrooms are busier and, dare I say it, more chaotic than on other days. Sometimes we feel like we start in the morning and we're just putting out fire after fire after fire, averting that crisis, dealing with this incident. Children are sick, we have parent meetings, we have colleagues that are a bit out of sorts. How do we find time to observe? Go back to your informal observations. If you're in a classroom, you're observing. Don't beat yourself up about the fact that you have to do formal observations. They are lovely, to be sure, and there is a time and a place for them, to be sure. But some days, informal observations are what we have to do. Okay. But if you're in the room, if you're supervising lunchtime, if you're dealing with drop-off or pick-up, if you're chatting with parents, you can do observations. The difficulty we have is not so much, I have no time to observe. It's more, how am I going to remember? And that's where you need that little notepad. That's where you need the child's name, the time, and the material. Just enough of a prompt for you to be able to remember the details. The second thing, and it's a very interesting question that people ask me, how can I be truly objective about what I see? When I see something going on, when I see a child doing something, how can I be really objective about it? And the answer is really, you can't be. You can't be truly objective because you are a product of your past, you are a product of your history, you are a product of your culture and your experience. But what you can do is you can be aware of that. So I'm 60 years old. I was born in London, in England. I was a child in the 70s. All of these things I bring to my classroom in Calgary, Alberta, when I do my observations. And I can't change that. That's who I am. But what I can do is I can be aware. Okay. So when you do your observations, don't worry too much about, I have to be really objective. Because what Maria Montessori asks us to do is to be reflective guides. Think about who we are, where we're from, what we bring to the classroom. And we carry that understanding of ourselves as people into everything we do. Okay. So we often hear the expression, we teach who we are. And if you're in the cohort that I work with, you'll hear me use that a lot. But I also want you to think about the fact that we observe who we are as well. And that's just as important. We observe who we are. Another question that people ask me is, what do I do with my observations when I have them? You can be a great observer. You can have notebooks and you can make observations and you can write pages and pages and pages of stuff. And they're all sitting in the corner of your classroom, piling up, and you don't actually do anything with them. So what do you do with your observations? You reflect. You prepare your environment accordingly. You make a material. You change your room around. You adjust your own practice or approach to a child. Then you observe again. So observations, the best observations, will count for naught if you don't actually do anything with them. Okay. So observe, reflect, prepare the environment, observe again. It's a cyclical, ongoing process. Finally, a really, really important question to think about as an observer in a room. How long do I wait before I intervene in a situation? So the number one thing to remember is, if safety is an issue, don't wait. If safety is an issue, your safety, the child's safety, the child's friend's safety, act. Other than that, just take a breath, pause, count to 10, sing row, row, row your boat, sit on your hands, do whatever it takes, but don't rush to fix something before you've taken a couple of breaths. So pause, wait, watch, and then decide. Don't let your mind, your brain react too quickly. It's very, very difficult to do sometimes when you see a big jug of water right on the edge of somebody's table. It's the hardest thing in the world to like, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm going to watch this play out. Sometimes the jug will fall. The bowl with the rice will spill onto the floor. And then you have the cleanup process. Sometimes a child will notice it and you'll go, yay. Okay. But however you do it, pause before you rush in to fix things. Okay. Pause and observe. Okay. Finally, I think it's worth remembering that observation is a skill that we need to refine. It's not something that you're just naturally great at. If you think about a child in the practical life area, when they first come into the classroom, their fine motor is not great. They're a little bit slow and unrefined in their movements. There's lots of spills, there's lots of missteps. But gradually they refine their skill. It's the same for us and our observations, because observation as a practice has a lot of moving parts. We need to think about what we're seeing. We need to think about how to interpret it. We need to think about what we bring to an observation. And this all takes time to refine. So we talk a lot about observing the child, but the longer that you do this, the more you realize you're also observing yourself too. And if you ever leave an observation thinking, oh, I'm really not very good at this, then that's the moment that you've really begun to see. Okay. Alrighty, so that's the end of the presentation as such. I hope people have questions about observations because it is so central to what we do. It's such an important skill, and I would be very happy to talk to anybody about how to use observations, how to record observations, what to observe even. Okay, so if anybody has any questions.
Yes, I have. Jen?
Hello, is that Jenny? Hello, Jenny.
Yes, I am Jen from Thailand, and I'm working as a teacher here in Thailand with a Montessori environment. And I've been teaching for like 3 years now. And as with the topic observation, I wanted to know like how do we present our observation to our parents? Like what are the is there are any like do's and don'ts when observing a child, because we don't want to make feel bad about the child or nor even the parents, right? So
Yeah.
what is the best way to present our observation to our parents, especially if they are first timer who are enrolling their kids in a Montessori school?
Yeah. So sometimes, Jen, when we talk to parents about their children, it's because there might be a challenge. So if there is a challenge and you're making observations to help you address that challenge, then when you talk to parents, you can say things like, this is what I've been seeing in the classroom. Have you been noticing the same things at home? Because then it's like you're asking the parents to collaborate with you and you add value, and you might be naming something that they have concerns about too. but you're doing that in a very non-judgmental way.
Mm,
And then you can say to them, in the classroom, I've noticed that they work very, very hard in the practical life area to refine their fine motor skills. And this is something that I feel we need to work on. And at home, you could help as well by doing XYZ.
mm,
So you're addressing the issue, you're sharing your observations, you're inviting the parents to share theirs and collaborate, and you're developing a way forward for you as an educator, for the family, and for the child.
mhm. Okay. Well, thank you.
Is
Yeah.
is that what you meant?
Yeah, yeah. And I have some couples of questions too, like, um, how do you practice that taking notes of observation in a daily, like, like for example, we have many kids in the class and they are in different uh areas and there are two or three teachers. So
Yeah.
how do you take note of them and then how do you find some time to collaborate with other teachers?
Yeah. Ideally,
Mm,
we would have a meeting once a week, a team meeting, and share our observations. Ideally, it's
mm,
very rarely an ideal world. Okay.
mhm,
So, one of the ways that you can begin to share observations is have a little communication book
mhm,
where you just jot down key things at the end of the day before your shift is over when you go home. And then the person that comes in can read that book. Or you can have a binder where you would perhaps copy your daily observations, photocopy your daily observations, and put them into that shared binder. And
mhm.
that way you get more detailed observations than you might have in a little communication book.
Awesome. Maybe this is one of my last one. How often you do the formal observation or um like when is the time that you need to do the formal observation?
Yeah. If you're like a lead guide, I would try and do uh again, ideally in an ideal world, I would try and do at least one formal observation daily. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be for very long though. Once you get into the routine, a formal observation can be pretty quick, 15, 20 minutes. But what you have to do is communicate with your team, and your team is the other adults in the room. You
Mm-hmm.
say, right, I'm going to just um, step aside for 15 minutes. I'm going to observe Sarah because I want to check um, if which work she chooses in the language area.
Mm.
Yeah.
It could be individual or classroom.
Yep.
Mm.
You can say, I'm going to take 10 minutes before the transition to lunch just to observe how the classroom as a whole
Mm.
cleans up and manages that process.
Okay,
But
that's
what you have to do is tell your team, yeah,
okay.
I'm
That,
not going to be engaged with the room. I'm not going to be running circle. I'm not going to be doing the cleanup because I'm going to be observing.
okay. Awesome.
And if you notice as well, Jen, if you notice um, something and you think, oh, that was interesting. So something going on in the classroom and you think, oh, that was interesting, then talk to your team about it as well. The
Mm-hmm.
sooner or the quicker you can talk to them about what you just saw, the better. Get their
Okay.
feedback too. And that helps you as the lead, that helps you kind of get that clearer picture, get the other interpretations and the other
Mm.
perspectives.
Great, great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for those insights. It's very helpful.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Does anybody else? Sue?
Hi, Debbie. This is just a very practical question. I know that in a Montessori classroom, you will have about 20, maybe around 25 children. And I'm just thinking in terms of the note taking and or the record keeping for formal and informal observations. I should imagine that if you have some kind of classroom binder for observation, that you would need kind of to separate the children. Otherwise, it would be crazy to just have to scroll through pages and pages with, do you know what I'm saying? With everyone's, like maybe 10 children, you're commenting on one page. So I'm just wondering logistically and practically how that would best be organized so that you can actually access a record that's useful and user-friendly for the guides and the teachers.
Yeah. So recently, we had a discussion about to plan or not to plan in a Montessori classroom. And we decided as a group, as you know, that planning is actually a good idea for each child. You have a rough idea in your mind of what you want to present next. So on that planning sheet for each child, that's where you can add some of those key observations. Because then that makes so much sense. You've got your rough plan or you've got your plan, and you know that planning in Montessori for every child is a flexible thing. A child could be really, really, really into math, like Monday and Tuesday, and on your plan you've got that on Friday you're going to present another math lesson, and then all of a sudden they're not into math anymore and they go off into sensorial. But that's where you can put your observations. And that can be really useful for the other adults in your room as well, because they can look at that plan and they can also see your key observations.
And Debbie, would the other adults put their notes in the same place so that there's one common place to find information about one child?
They could, Sue, because then if you're off sick, let's say, and your co-teacher needs to step in, they have access to the observations and to the plan for the child.
Right.
So the child's not left stranded just because you had to take a day off because you got a migraine. So the follow the child comes into its own then because it's there.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. In that case, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. If I can. Hang on. See, I told you I wasn't very technically gifted. Okay. So I would like to say thank you very much for inviting me to present today. Thank you to Catherine. Thank you to CGMS. If anybody would like to reach out about anything to do with observations, anything to do with Montessori, anything to do with the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, if you have any questions about any of those things, please don't hesitate to reach out either to Catherine or to myself. Catherine's email address is cching@cgms.edu, and my email address is debbiec@cgms.edu. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. So I'd like to hand it back over to Catherine now. And thank you very much, Catherine, for inviting me today.
You are very welcome. And yeah, I'm sure many of us learned a lot of things today. And if you would just share one major takeaway that you have tonight, maybe on the chat while I prepare the next section.
So let's have a look. Okay. One major takeaway.
Yeah.
So my cohort knows. Sue, Dan. Thuzar. Hello, Thuzar. Share one major takeaway. How about we observe who we are?
Okay, I see some people are shy, but no worries. You have an opportunity to share your takeaway. At the end of my slides, you will be scanning another QR code for what we call a 3-2-1 reflection form. After completing the form, you will get your professional development certificate. Okay, so you do have to submit it if you want your CPD hours in. Okay, so just very quickly, I'm just going to give a quick introduction of who we are at CGMS. I know many of you are familiar, and for our guests who are not yet CGMS students, right? I hope you will find this very helpful for you. So CGMS, we are accredited by the Montessori Accreditation Council in the USA. Okay. And I tell everyone that we take the name Center for Guided Montessori Studies very, very seriously. Yeah, in our program for the teacher certification, we do support our learners. We have the instructional guide who stays with the cohort for 1.5 years. And if you're on the elementary program, that will be 2 years. Then you have the practicum advisor who meets with you 2 times every month for 10 months while you are teaching in the classroom. Debbie and I also doubles up as practicum advisors. And we have a third person called the field consultant who visits in your classroom to do on-site or virtual observations. Yeah, and that's during your practicums period. Okay, and sometimes we have learners who are working in schools that do not have teachers or guides who have undergone some formal training. So in those cases, we do appoint a mentor who is a volunteer to support you and also meets with you. Okay, so we really are investing a lot of manpower to guide our learners who are enrolled in the teacher certification programs. We also have professional development programs, and for that program, you have the instructional guide that stays with you for 10 weeks. Okay. So our teacher certification programs are blended. So a majority of the content is covered online, and then we meet in person for 2 weeks in what we call a residency. Okay, and for Asia, it will be any one of the cities in one of the Asian countries. And for the past 2 years, 3 years, we have been meeting in Indonesia. Okay. We have a lot of accredited programs from infant toddler all the way to leadership. Okay. And if you are interested to find out more, you can go to our website under cgms.edu, okay, which I've typed on the chat. Okay. We also have professional development courses. These are shorter courses for those who perhaps for whatever reason, whether it is financial or time, may not be able to commit to the teacher certification programs. So you might want to consider the shorter programs, and generally they are 10-week programs. Okay. So we also have the early childhood, infant toddler, elementary. I'm still putting together 3 other courses. These are very well demanded in Asia. So we have one for art, math refresher, where a lot of learners like to do the math refresher and the language refresher courses. Okay, and we in Asia, we are very unique. We do open up our summer residency for learners who wants to join. It is very experiential and it's interactive as well. Okay, and this year we're going to be in Yogyakarta in Indonesia. So if you want to find out more information, you can actually email me. I'm just going to put my email below. Good question, Dan. When is the art course going to be offered? I'm trying to grow more hands and get everything up ready. Okay, and I'm hoping to do it after July, after the residency. Okay. Okay, we do have regular webinars. Every month I host at least one session. And the next one's coming is for those who are interested in the elementary short program. And we have Priya. Priya is also a dear colleague I met in 2023 at one of the residencies, and we have been in touch for a really long time. Priya is going to be the instructional guide for our elementary PD program. And next one, I will tell everyone, do not miss this. Kitty Bravo is our education director. I have invited her. I stole time from her and said, you have to come and meet all our Asia learners. Yeah, and she's going to do this topic on what teachers want and need from the school administration. If you want to be sponsored by your school, you want to drag your principal and your school owners to join us here, she's going to be covering some very important aspects, and she's really advocating for the teachers, right? So many of us are actually putting in hours and hours, supporting children. And who is investing in us? Right? I know many of us are actually paying for ourselves. We also want to see and encourage school leaders to be considering investing in their staff. Okay, and there's so many ways of doing that. Okay, so please get your school owners and your principals to come. Okay. And that's the end of the session. We ask that you just scan in, do a post scan. I'm going to keep it there for a little bit. So if you can just do the scan to get it's going to take about 2 minutes to give us some feedback, what you have learned, what you want to apply. And while you are at it, okay, if those of you who are not yet following us, you can actually follow us on one of the social media. You don't have to do everyone. So do you need the scan again?
No, I'm getting a request to restore the following. It's basically saying that it's not safe.
Oh,
so it's not letting me,
okay,
it's not letting me get to the site.
Okay, let me get you the link. Hold just a minute now. Thank you
so
for
much.
that. Okay, so this is for social media following. And I should have okay, let me get you the link. Just give me a second.
Thanks.
Thank you for bringing it up.
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to put it on chat. If you can just click on it and download it.
Thank you.
My apologies. I actually tested it just now. Yeah, and that will be our. So those of you who want to find out more about our Asia programs, you can go to our website, and I'm going to put it here as well. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us. I trust many of you have found the session very helpful. I am surprised that you didn't, not many questions came out.
Me too.
Usually
But
on observation,
please,
there's a lot of questions.
yeah, so please,
Yeah.
if you want to email us, that's fine.
Yes.
Absolutely fine.
Yes, yes. And sometimes we can't think of any because we have a long day, right? And to many of us here in Asia, it is already 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Right? And those in Japan is even later, yeah. Yeah, so if you think of something, do send us an email and then we'll be happy to get back to you. Okay. Thank you, Anne. Yes, so yeah, if you have any questions about our program or if you think of something you want to just shoot the question to us, Debbie and I will be happy to stay on for a little bit. If not, I wish you a very good night and rest well and be ready to serve your children tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.